Welcome to a two-pronged new episode of the Demonic Compendium, the show where I discuss the mythology, design, and game history of your favorite Megami Tensei demons. Recently, I issued a challenge to myself in regards to this show, to cover a demon with vague mythological origins, a rather plain design, and a fairly small role as far as game history is concerned. So saddle up folks at home, because today, we're talking about Bicorn. Quite frankly, the best way to introduce Bicorn is to paraphrase a line from one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons. So then, bi means two, and corn means horn. And that concludes our intensive 3-week course. Though the actual origins of corn found in unicorn and bicorn date back to the Latin cornu, which does mean horn, and also connects to the Indo-European root word care, which translates to horn and head. While we often think of creatures like the bicorn, the root word has been attached to many common words we use in the English language today, such as acorn or corner. Another branching path of the care root gave us the Greek charis, which went on to be used in other horned creatures' names, including the rhinoceros and triceratops. Bicorn's Compendium entry from Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne says that it is an evil creature that looks like a horse with two curving horns. It is said to be the opposite of a chichevache. As for what a chichevache is, well, they're pretty quiet on that part. For this episode, I'm going to do something a bit unorthodox and quote a second Compendium entry, as I believe the entry from the MMO title, Shin Megami Tensei Imagine, does a very good job summing up the lore of these horny beasts. And yes, that was intentional, and you'll get why in a second. A monster with two sharp, spiraling horns on its forehead, considered the counterpart of the unicorn. Males are called bicorns, while females are called chichivaches, thin cows. If unicorns are considered holy, then bicorns are considered unholy, reviled as filthy beasts. The number 1 is said to signify the purity of man, while the number 2 represents the seduction brought by the arrival of women. This dualistic nature has proved especially influential in Japan. Unicorns are said to have originated from bicorns and once had two horns themselves. They are also thought to have been invented later as symbols of good to oppose the evil bicorns. Bicorns are said to symbolize adultery, one of the 7 deadly sins. Although most of us are aware adultery itself isn't one of the 7 deadly sins specifically, it usually just falls under the lust category. Though it is referred to in Galatians, but they have way more than 7, so I'm not gonna get into that. One last note is of course Bicorn's role in Christianity. While not directly mentioned in the Bible itself, the Hebrew word reem pops up a handful of times throughout various texts. In some translations, the reem is directly referred to as a unicorn, though some also speculate it to simply be an ox, or of course, the bicorn. The first time Megami Tensei has referenced this beast is in Bicorn's Persona 5 Compendium entry. Design-wise, Bicorn is a horse. And he's got 2 horns. Cool, that was easy. Moving on. Alright, I do have a little bit more to say. But to be clear, this episode, I am specifically basing this more on my own research and speculations, and I might be completely off base from what Kaneko had initially intended. The first thing to point out is obviously the black fur, which simply seems to make it a counterpoint to the pure white unicorn. Though Bicorn also has traces of white, potentially as a nod to unicorns stemming from them. But the pattern of white around their hooves forms a fire shape, possibly alluding to sin and the very notion of burning in hell. Bicorn has red eyes, which is often used as a symbolic color of lust, but I think the more interesting color to focus on is its noticeably green horns. In Christianity, the color green is a representative color of fertility, and according to the 7 laws of Noah, which uses the colors of the rainbow as its basis, the 4th rule, meaning the green rule, states, "Do not engage in illicit sexual relations," which makes it a pretty fitting color to include in a demon that represents the very act of adultery. As far as game history goes, Bicorn originated as a low-level wilder demon, a classification it has kept in other SMT games, including If and Nocturne. Though the Bicorn has been absent from Strange Journey, Shin Megami Tensei 4, and Apocalypse. It is currently unknown if Bicorn will be one of the demons added to the upcoming Strange Journey Redux, or the mysterious Switch game Atlus has in the works. In the MMO title, Shin Megami Tensei Imagine, Bicorn is one of the demons that can be converted into a nimble version of itself, allowing players to ride it as a mount, and stands out as one of only a few demons that can also be ridden as an unruly variation, alongside, who else? The unicorn. Arguably the largest role Bicorn has had in any Megaton game comes from none other than Persona 5, where their shadow forms were referred to as the Dirty Two-Horned Beast. A trio of Bicorn defeat Joker and Morgana early in the game, prompting Ryuji to unlock his Persona ability. 2 more Bicorn are fought immediately afterwards as minions of Eligor. There are also switches on the wall in Kamoshida's castle that seem to resemble Bicorn, which is fitting that an impure adulterous demon would be symbolically represented in the Palace of Lust. Overall, Bicorn is a fairly low-level demon that may not seem like anything special on the surface, but hopefully proves that there's always a little more once you do a bit of digging. And so there you have it, Bicorn, the horny horned horse that's probably headed to hell. Did I leave out something you thought was important? Was I just plain wrong about something? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to let me know who you'd like to see me talk about in future episodes. That's going to do it for this episode of the Demonic Compendium, and I'll see you next time. But be careful while you rest that a demon doesn't take over your body.